Hey guys, my name is Sydney Patterson. I am a communication major with a minor in environmental science. Like most of you guys, I'm sure, I don't know exactly what I want to do career-wise once I graduate, but I do want to use my skill set to somehow help the environment or raise awareness for things like environmental activism, something like that. So, I am most passionate about my dogs. Growing up, I always had dogs in my family. This is why it wasn't surprising that as soon as I moved out, I was already looking for a dog to call my own. I kind of aspire to be a crazy dog lady, but as of right now, I only have two. I am a hero to both of my dogs, though, because both of my dogs were rescued from near-death experiences. I was a hero to my oldest dog when I rescued him as a puppy from Animal Control Services here in San Antonio. He was barely 8 weeks old and only a couple of pounds when I rescued him. Because San Antonio is a kill shelter city, dogs can be put down if the kennels are getting too crowded. Due to this same overflow, my puppy and his siblings were all set to be put down the next day. Although I could not rescue all 6 of them, at least I was able to rescue one. Besides, unlike older dogs, most puppies do end up getting adopted from ACS right before their scheduled date to be put down. So I named my first puppy Mick. I named him Mick after Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones and Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac. Mick is a Beagle Australian cattle dog mix and weighs about 30 pounds now. When I first saw Mick in the cage, the first thing I noticed was the fact that he was sleeping on his back, belly up, just totally passed out, while all of his siblings were jumping around, playing, barking, and just being totally wild. So for just under $50, I was able to save a life, and it worked out really well because Mick is the perfect fit for my family and really helped me to cope with my anxiety and other stresses that came with starting college. Anyone that has had a puppy knows how chaotic and stressful raising one can be, which is why it's pretty crazy that just a few short years later, I was already wanting to add another dog into my family. After searching shelters and online rescue databases, I heard through a friend that her grandma's neighbor was getting rid of puppies. This is when my second rescue, Atlas, came into the picture. Atlas is a shepherd mix. When I rescued him from his previous owners, I saved his life. He was being kept in a backyard in the cold weather with no toys, no shelter, and he was surrounded by dogs on all sides of the fences. He was also unvaccinated at almost 10 weeks old, which is 2 weeks over the suggested time for a puppy to get their first round of vaccinations. Shortly after taking him home and getting him his first round of vaccines, I learned that he had parvo, which, for those of you that don't know, parvo is a really deadly puppy disease. He most likely contracted parvo when he was surrounded by all of the other dogs at the house that I rescued him from. I was a hero when I helped get him back to health. When I took him to the vet told me that I could pay $3,000 to board him, plus all of these other fees that you have to factor in, and I was looking at a couple $1,000s just to save my puppy. As a college student, I didn't exactly have that money lying around, so instead I decided to take curing him into my own hands. Luckily, my past experience working in a kennel at Petland, which is a pet store, it had taught me how to treat parvo and give the puppies a better chance of survival. Throughout his illness, I was frequently consulting with my old employees, asking for things like supplies, any advice, and then if anyone had any time to spare to come help me with him. I just really wanted to make sure that Atlas had a long, full life ahead of him. And while most of my friends were focusing on midterms, I was pretty much waking up at the crack of dawn every single day to inject Atlas with IV fluids and to hand feed him. His full recovery took about 2 weeks, but he did make it through. Both of my fur babies are healthy and happy now, and Atlas is a little over a year, and Mick is almost 3 years old. So my top 3 goals for communication growth from this class are to be more effective with my persuasion, to get better at formulating arguments using persuasion, and to apply persuasion in my daily life.